What is going on, guys? So in my career, I have one secret weapon, and this weapon's been a book. It's one of the greatest books that I've ever read that forced me to go back and look at my approach that I'm taking in the kitchen when dealing with my staff. The book is Drive by Daniel Pink. Drive is in reference to what drives teams to perform at a higher level. So I warn you, there are going to be spoilers. If you don't have time to sit down and read a book, I encourage you to watch this entire video because there's some really good information in this one. So in his book, Daniel Pink set out to figure out what drives team performance. The first is biological indicators. Biological indicators are such things as sex or social status. The second thing is if and thens, or carrots and sticks as he refers to them in the books. This is a punishment reward. If you do this, you'll get that. An example of this is, if you do this job, I will give you more money. If you don't do this job, you will be punished. And the third thing that drives performance is curiosity and the pursuit of mastery. So what Daniel Pink discovered in this book is that most businesses will focus on the first two. They'll focus on the biological and they'll focus on the if-then or the carrots and sticks. But as this book outlines, the third is actually what drives employee performance the most. Think about it. If we didn't have the pursuit of mastery and we didn't have curiosity, we wouldn't have Steve Jobs, we wouldn't have Apple, we wouldn't have inspiring innovation. So here's a look at some of the research that he did to get to this conclusion. In the 1940s, someone named Carl Dunker created the candle problem. If I bring you into this room, you're gonna have a candle, thumbtacks, and matches. Your job is to attach the candle to the wall so the wax doesn't drip onto the table. How do you do it? I'll give you a few seconds to think about it.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
So to solve this problem, you have to overcome functional fixedness. The box for the tacks can be used in more than one way. After this experiment was conducted, someone named Sam Glucksenberg did another experiment with two different groups. So he told both groups that they were going to be timed, but he offered one group a reward. The group with the money incentive actually got the solution 3.5 minutes slower than a group without the incentive. Similar experiments have been conducted and they all yield the same result. Glucksenberg did the same experiment again, but in a different way. Now the tack's outside the box. This time, the incentive group performed much better. What this shows us is that narrow focus tasks actually work with if-then rewards. But those same if-then rewards actually hinders performance of jobs where you actually have to use some imagination and creativity. In Stanford, they did another experiment. They took a preschool class and they divided it into 3 groups. Group 1 was told, if you draw, you're gonna get a certificate. They went to group 2 and said, here's some crayons, here's some paper, draw if you want to. But they didn't tell them about a reward, but the kids in group 2 that drew actually got a certificate. They went to group 3 and they said, here's some pens, here's some paper, draw if you want to. In group 3, when the kids drew, they didn't get anything. They ran this experiment for 2 whole weeks. And what they found after the experiment was done is that moving forward from then on, the kids that were in group A actually stopped drawing. What this shows us is that if we give you a reward and ask you to do something in return, you're not going to do that task unless there's a reward attached to it. So another thing they did was they looked at some of the Fortune 500 companies, the most successful companies in the world, to see what they're doing differently and which smaller companies can learn from. And what they found out is that they're actually focusing on the third indicator of what motivates people, which is going to be the pursuit of mastery and curiosity. So we've all heard of a company called 3M. What 3M did is they allowed their employees something called 20% time, or letting their employees work on whatever they want for 20% of their time at work. During this 20% time, their most famous product, the Post-it note, was created. So Google actually mimicked 3M's idea because of the success that they were seeing. And they actually got a lot of great apps through their free time that their employees have, one being Google Maps. Another company, Zappos. Zappos is an online shoe company. They decided to give their employees complete autonomy on the phone. As soon as Zappos got rid of the script, they have been recognized as one of the top performing companies when it comes to customer service. So what Daniel Pink found out is that the biggest motivator is actually intrinsic motivation. Employees want to see cool challenges. They want autonomy. They want to be able to do something themselves. So I think this book actually teaches us a lot. And after I read it, I really went back and looked at my approach as a manager. You need to be taking an approach that these employees need to be inspired. They need to want to go to work, and you need to teach them how to do that. Let's use a carrot stick approach. Let's say you have a broil cook that's not performing. Let's say they're burning steaks all the time, and your first thing to do is to pull them out and say, hey, if you don't stop burning steaks, we're gonna have to let you go. Or you threaten them with a write-up. They're gonna get frustrated and they might just quit, or they might give you some pushback. But what if you take a different approach? What if you go up to that employee and you show them the ins and outs of steaks? What if you do a side-by-side and teach them how to season it correctly, teach them about orchestration and the proper way to grill a steak to get perfect diamond marks? What if you do that? And then you let him eat it. You let him taste the steak. It's an expensive protein, but it's gonna be okay because it's for his development. What's he gonna do? Well, he's gonna go home in that situation and he's gonna grill steaks with his kids and he's gonna show them all the cool things he's learning at work. The next day he's gonna be coming back trying to learn more. So it's all about the approach. It's all about how we approach these situations to inspire and motivate our staff. So one last thing I want to bring up. I know that working in the kitchen, there's a lot of things that you can't have flexibility with. You can't have flexibility with your recipes because everything has to be consistent. You can't have flexibility with food code and food safety because those are actual state guidelines that we have to follow. But let's say an employee comes to you with something small, a project that they want to accomplish because they think it will improve the restaurant. If you have an employee coming up to you saying, hey, I want to do this, or I want to impact this, or I have an idea to get something clean, or to make an impact somewhere in the kitchen, give them the ball and let them run with it. Even if you give them coaching in that moment by saying, hey, you can do that, but this is how I would do it, or this is how I want it done, you got to think about it. That's going to kill him inside. In his mind, he has a great idea and a great way to execute this. So by you giving him that feedback of how you want it to be done, it's going to demotivate him and he's not going to do as good of a job. So you have to recognize things like that. So for things like that, I try to support them as much as possible because I know that they're going to deliver on a greater result than if I sit there and tell them how to do it. So I hope you found this one valuable. This book is amazing and I encourage you all to go out and read it. But the application and what you can learn from it is invaluable because you can look at your operation and look how you're managing and you can go back and fix things.